Hello and welcome to The Last Standee, a board game podcast coming to you from 3 exciting locations across Europe. I'm joined today by Cara.
Hello.
And Audrey.
Hi everyone.
And I've immediately annoyed myself because I try and do them in alphabetical order because that's just what I'm like. The names, that is. So, anyway, today we're going to be talking about some role-playing games, and I'm going to be muddling my way through trying to figure out how I feel about Dante's Inferno would be the best way to describe it. Before we do that, let's cover the catch-up. I haven't spoken to you for a little while in recording, Audrey. How have things been?
Yeah, it's been a while. I think November maybe. So yeah, things have been. I'm not sure what word to use, but there have been good things, slightly bad things, but mostly good things, I would say. So more role-playing games. We will touch on that a little bit later, like really much more role-playing games. In a few days, I will go to see a psychologist to talk about maybe ADHD. I'm not quite sure this is something that I would have, but I think few things add up. Like, I mean, you see me, we put the webcams on when we record, and I'm always like tinkering with things with my hands, for instance. We do some games online, and I'm always like, oh, I have to go something, but keep on without me. I have wireless headset and a few other things. So,
yeah, I've got a role-playing group, and all 4 of my players have ADHD, so I know what it's like.
Yes, so I'm not sure in the sense that I haven't had, let's say, big consequences in every aspect of my life, but there is a kind of exhaustion that. So yeah, we will see, and I will keep everyone posted, but it may take a few months. So we'll see.
Yeah, you don't want to rush those kind of things, and a diagnosis can often be very helpful for just contextualizing everything. Be like, oh, that's why these things have been happening this way. And I like that these days there's a lot more talking about things like ADHD, and it's not really a stigma at all. It's just the things people have. So I'm really glad you're going for it. I hope it works out for you, and do keep us posted on that.
Yeah. 2 other things which are still around that it's a mental health topic. This is going to be a heavy mental health recording for me. I've been trying to select how I spend my time better. Less League of Legends, much less League of Legends.
Good call.
More Helldivers with friends. But with friends as much as possible. More painting. I finished 3 Kingdom Death Resin models like in the last 4 weeks. 2 of them being from the Death High section. I love the Death High section, really so good.
Me too. One of my saddest things is I had to give up collecting it because it's too expensive, but every time I see the models I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, Death High is an insta buy for me, and I'm very happy now that it's not one every month, but like staggered in September. I like that. So yeah, that more painting, and I picked up reading again. It has been like 12 years maybe since I read more than 4 books in a year, and I've read 8 in the last month and a half.
Wow, that's amazing.
So yeah, very happy. I picked up Dungeon Crawler Carl. Love it. Made it to book 7. 8 should be very soon there. You know about it?
Are you going to be interested in the Kickstarter for the board game?
No.
Because it's based on Unstoppable, and Unstoppable is incredible.
Yes, but no, due to language and being able to play with friends. That ship has sailed long ago.
Fair enough.
With Simon, Awaken Realms with translation sometimes a bit wonky. So no, now it's French or bust. So yeah, I'm very happy I read all the Dungeon Crawler Carl. I think I've never had as much fun laughing in a book, and I'm going to be ready to pick up the Cosmere from Brandon Sanderson again, and finish what I bought but haven't read yet. That's going to be excited. I have 25 books ahead of me, and then I think it's going to be a Red Rising series. Really, if you guys want to talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl and don't know what it is, hit me up and we will talk, because I am very thrilled to spread the love for Dungeon Crawler Carl. And so, Cosmere. So, for those that don't know, the Cosmere is the work of Brandon Sanderson, and it's basically all his universe that ties 70% of his books. 30% are off Cosmere, but yeah. And to finish the paragraph for mental health, and this is a good thing, there is no trigger warning on that. In, I think it was November, him and his publishing that he founded, Dragonsteel, they made their convention, Dragonsteel Nexus. And during the convention, they announced the Next Step coin, which is basically a coin. I think it's an enamel or metal coin with carved on one side one of the characters from his big series, The Archives of Roshar, and on the other side it's a QR code with resources for mental health. And it comes with a paper, of letter, basically, which is an oath to strive and to continue taking the next step. It is free of charge for anyone in the US that asks for it. Other people that want it as a collectible can buy it for $20 plus shipping. For us in Europe, that ends up being $50, which is not cheap. And the benefits go to funding more coins for those in need. And I love that it is quite a community-based thing, and you get the paper and you sign it, and there is the signature of Brandon Sanderson, and it's quite long, and you can find the paper as a PDF as well. I've been more loving Brandon Sanderson and his initiatives the last few months, and seeing that initiative and the people that were like, I feel seen, that gave me lots of hope. And I think that's the reason I've been, not the single one, but all of these things together have been the reasons I've been smiling the last 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, I think good times are ahead. I think 2026 is going to be a wonderful year, and I hope to spread that love.
Yeah, I'm always pleased with Brandon Sanderson. Just consistently seems to be every bit as good as he appears to be, which is always really nice. I mean, there's been a bunch of authors lately, problems coming out with them. It's been going on for quite a while. It's always nice when there's just one who's, they're a nice person and they just do, nice, good things, and they try their best, which I really like.
Yeah. The same comes out of Dungeon Crawler Carl. You can feel it at points. So, really. Anyway, speaking of spreading love, who do I pick next? Cara, you're up.
Okay. First of all, I'm sorry for last episode. I tried my best. No, that's not really true. I just winged it, and yeah. Fen, have you listened to last episode?
No, I haven't. I'm okay. I spend my free time reading more than anything else if I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going back to the Terry Pratchett books with the nice fancy editions and cringing at the terrible writing in his first few books. But yeah, I'm interrupting you. Go ahead.
So yeah. Anyway. What have I been up to? Well, I feel kind of bad to follow this very positive energy vibe from Audrey. Because actually it feels like I did the recording for last episode like yesterday, even though it's been a week, and it's just a blur. I just with work and driving and days merge into each other. So there's that. I haven't really gotten around to playing anything in the meantime. I haven't read anything in the meantime. I am. Wait, no, that's not. I played a video game, Planet Crafter. I'm playing Planet Crafter right now.
I really enjoyed that. Love the co-op on it. It's fun.
Yeah,
No
I'm playing
idea what it is.
solo. It's basically like a classical survival game, but guided.
You crash on a planet, terraforming it. Yeah.
So I don't particularly like these survival games. Like, they always intrigue me, and I start playing them, and I quickly lose interest because it's like I'm not sure what to do. And in Planet Crafter, you have all these small goals to reach, and every time I'm at a point where I think like, I don't know what to do anymore, and then I get a new unlock, a new machine I can build, and then I build it, and it starts a cascade of things, and so I really enjoy that. And my planet is in the tree phase now, and
I was going to ask where you were.
Yeah, and
we got further than that. I just say is we had to stop playing because I built a storage computer for the game running off the drones, and it became unplayable because of the lag. We can't work out how to turn the drones off. So don't go crazy with the drones.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Apart from that, I'm actually waiting for my appointment for autism diagnosis.
The next one.
ADHD I got last year. Now this year will be autism.
They're often comorbid.
Yeah, will be interesting. And I think that's it. Oh, my dog is in heat.
Oh no.
That's fun.
Oh no.
Right, Yuka. Yeah. So things are dripping.
Oh no.
Yeah. All my sofa and my carpets are covered. And yeah. There's that. Having a female uncastrated dog is fun. Ben, how about you? How are you? What's going on in your life?
Well, I gotta say, first of all, I'm actually kind of jealous your dog is in heat. Not so much because it's difficult to deal with, and that's always a problem. But like our dog, because she was a rescue, she came from a root, but they'd already neutered her. And you've seen her. I'm always bummed that she's had 4 puppies. We didn't get to adopt her with one of those puppies. Like, that's it. She's ended the line for us, which always makes me feel a bit sad because I would almost, if I had the money, it's Mariah Carey or Celine Dion, one of those two had her clones of a dog, and that's the point where I'm like, I can understand that. I can actually understand why she did it, although I still wouldn't. So, there's a positive to it, even if it is horrible in the moment. As for what I'm generally been doing, a vast amount of my time's been taken up with the subject of today. It's been on my table for, let's see, I'm on chapter 7 now, so over a week of it sitting on the table with me playing once a day, because that's like 3-4 hours play, and then note-taking and stuff. Beyond that, was it just a couple of days ago, I play Night Rain with my partner and sometimes one of her friends, and it's way better than it should be. I think I've talked about it in the past. Elden Ring Fortnite shouldn't be good, but it is.
I thought of picking it up at a point, and I was like, I would need friends that I know I will play with.
Yeah, well, we're always up for playing with someone, and because it's just like a delight regardless of what play experience someone is on. You can just be like, okay, well, I'll play a character I'm not so familiar with. There's so many things in the game that I hope the Tarnished Edition adopts, because when you go out to play an Elden Ring, it's suddenly like, oh my god, I can't mantle anything, the sprint button's wrong, and a whole bunch of other things that the combat they refined for Night Rain is incredible. But more importantly, my partner and I had a game session just like on the weekend where we banged out 5 Night Lords in a row consecutively, whereas normally like it's a struggle to do like more than 1 or 2 in a row. So finally popped for my partner, first ever time getting 100% achievement on a game, and it was Night Rain. So I think officially she got good, which is quite nice. But we're going back to Elden Ring now to finish it. We just finished the DLC, and it's weird. The ending is the DLC is really empty, and I think that's by design. I'm not going to go into the events of it, but it's just like you go, is that it? Is that the ending? Okay, I guess back to the main game then.
I didn't get the DLC, so I don't know.
The DLC itself is amazing. It is effectively a bigger world than the original Elden Ring, because it's got tons of verticality in it, and it completes the story of Marika and explains a lot of bits that were like kind of confusing, while adding loads more questions in the classic FromSoft way of, you figure it out, we're not going to tell you. So yeah, it's been pretty enjoyable to play. But like I said, I've been catching up on Terry, well, not catching up. So when Terry Pratchett passed away, I really struggled to read his works, even though I've read like all of them apart from the very last book. And it's taken a long time for me to be, okay, I'm going to read them. I've been getting over the years gifted the like really nice hardback editions with the lovely covers, and they're gorgeous, but they've just been kind of sitting on my shelf and not getting read. So as I said, finally got back into doing that, and it's very wild reading what he was like when he started, where it's quite, his humour's quite juvenile and even a bit sort of like, oh, he's writing about, naked dryads, and it's all a bit sort of adolescency, preteen for some reason. So it's interesting to re-experience the development, and also be very excited of like, hey, when I finish The Light Fantastic, next of all I get to read Equal Rights, which is like the first one where Terry really like has something to say beyond just a generic fantasy adventure. Equal Rights is great, and looking forward to that.
I've read only 2 books from Discworld, 8 Color and Mortimer, because I was like, yeah, death is cool, so I'm going to read more about death in capitals, please. And that's it. But I didn't really catch up on it's too absurd for me. I like a certain level of absurdity, but that's 2 levels too much.
Yeah, Mort is like his 4th book, so it's still pretty rough there. I do like the death books, but for me, one of my first ever books of his was Reaper Man, which is a death book again. No, it was my first book. I'd heard about it before, I'd had my friends rave and talk about it, and then my parents bought me for my birthday Reaper Man, which is, I have no idea how far in it is. It's basically death being forced into retirement, and trying to live his life as a farmer. Because obviously, a scythe, he's got the skills, and it's interesting how he's trying to become human and everything. So that's where I think the writing really comes together. Is sort of, it builds up, and you get to this point around book 8 or something where he's obviously finally developed his style. But yeah, I'm going to make myself get through it. I'm going to read the final book this time, and deal with however I feel about it, because it's it's a bit like that. It's like I'm obviously going to date it, but the Catherine O'Hara passed away like just a couple of days ago. If you don't know immediately who that is, that's Kevin's mum from Home Alone and in Schitt's Creek and everything. So that's been a bit like, I grew up watching Home Alone every Christmas, so it's a bit like having a family member pass, even though it's not, which feels weird. But yeah, anyway, beyond that, just kind of the usual. Every Tuesday I have to do my role-playing prep and do all my writing and whatnot, and I got to spend a nice day reading all about crocodiles, so I enjoyed that. And then I spent a whole day reading through Dante's, the first part of the Divine Comedy by Dante, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, that's it. Sort of, just, I don't know, one foot in the past maybe, looking at older stuff, and then looking toward the future where we're not snowed in, because all the snow here is frozen solid, so it's like, looks like snow, but it feels like ice to walk on. So I can't wait for that to go away. But yeah, that's it here. Same old country life where you make your own entertainment. Yeah, right, well, let's get on with the actual topics. And Audrey, you're up first, because Alessio wrote the scheduling, and I can't edit it. So I hope you're okay with that.
Yeah, it's fine.
So you can... Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this, because, like I said, Brandon Sanderson seems like a really good egg, and seems to build some great worlds, and I think his multiverse is more interesting than Stephen King's, so you take it over.
Yes, so I'm going to talk about 2 items from the Cosmere RPG, which my husband gifted me for Christmas. I have these 2 items in English, and I am waiting for the French pre-order, which should come in May, something like that, to get like everything. Except miniatures, extra dice sets, because who gives a shit about that when you have been playing for 20 years? And I made an order at Dragonsteel, and I ordered the Cosmere dice pouch, which is going to be amazing because I don't have a dice pouch. 20 years of role-playing games and I don't have a dice pouch. Shame on me. Anyway, back to the 2 items. So the 2 items I'm going to discuss are going to be the first step, which is basically a choose your adventure book to help you create your character. And the second item is going to be the starter kit. Simple as that. So the first step, so it's really, as I said, a choose your adventure kind of book. So you have, I think, 4 or 5 different scenes with sub, let's say, questions, sub actions in them, and everything is like, yeah, what do you do? Do you do this or that? I'm going to give an example, and when the players decide, it gives them points in some statistics and or points in pass. Basically, at the end, when you look at your characteristics and at your pass points, you will say, the character that I started to roleplay feels like a warrior from the full game. Or feels like scholar. I'm not sure I remember all the names of the 6 classes, but from the full game. So that gives you an insight to that. And I think that to help build a group, if you do that, and everyone will pick different answers, because they will be like, yeah, let's spread out, do different actions, etc. And so that will organically create a group that is diverse. So for instance, the very first question is about you are part of a caravan and it's being attacked. What do you do? Do you search for your gear or something useful? Do you check on the people who were ambushed by the archers? Grab a weapon and engage the spear infantry? Or run toward the center of camp to find the lady who commands it? And each of these questions will then have sub-choices, like if you go to search your gear, do you pick a weapon, a long-distance communication tool, a roll of tools, a small technological device, a document, or a medical kit? And then it continues like this. So we played it with my husband, just like the 2 of us, to check how it works. It took us, I think, 1 hour and a half. So that's really a perfect tool for a session 0. At the end, as I said, you will have, let's say, advice guideline for a full character creations, but you do not have the tools to do it. So you need the core book to finalize it. You will have your first stat points, your idea of this is the class that corresponds to your action, but you do not have the full book. So yeah, really a good tool, but on its own, I'm not sure, let's say, how far it goes. One session, that's it. And I think that maybe to introduce people that have not played any TTRPG, that could be a good thing, just to go with what do you do, what do you do, what do you do, and just that, and then say for a full campaign you will do this on top of that, etc., etc. So yeah, I think that's a 15 euros or between 10 and 15 euros book. So it has let me check 41 pages. So I think it's a fair item, but yeah, it doesn't stand on its own. Up, that's done. Then we have the Stormlight starter set. So I will go a bit into the contents and then a little bit around the rules. And yeah. Before I continue, something I forgot to mention is that so far the only delivered items from the Cosmere TTRPG Kickstarter or backer kit or whichever platform the game was run on have been centered on the Roshar world. The things that are on the Scadrial world, home of the books Mistborn, my favorite, yes, I'm a steel and metal person, so of course I love metal magic, will come at the end of the year in English, and no date has been announced so far in French, and I'm waiting for it. I hope the French version of Roshar sells millions, and then we have Scadrial. So yeah, contents. We have a little page of tokens, which is starting to be a norm in many starter kits. I think Fantasy Flight Games started to really implement that everywhere, and it's being followed. And I think it's cool. It's not needed, but it's cool, and it's always useful as well. Sometimes when you do campaigns, you can still reuse these because you have different sizes, and when you use a grid for combat, yeah, that's always something good. Then we have double layered square grid maps, of course, for combat, because this is a system that's going to make use of the grid. So I'm getting it close to the camera so you guys can see the grids a little bit. And yeah, double-sided, and it's not too thin paper. So I think that's going to be a little bit durable, and I like that. Then we have, I think it's 6 pre-generated character sheets. So we have a side with the background, a side with all the stats, and they all have a little illustration and the token that comes along. So I really like this visual thing. And so yeah, that lets you really introduce the different things. So we have a scholar, warrior, envoy, leader, agent, and hunter, which are the 6 classes, and they all have different skills and knowledges and everything. So I will keep one for when I go into the system. Then we have, of course, a scenario book, which is all the story, the different scenes. At the end, you have all the NPC stats, etc. It's again a 40 pages book. Then there is the rule book, which explains the basic rules to play. This one is 58 pages, and you will have a bit of items, gaming things like, of course, combat, the different skills descriptions, etc. That's classic. One thing that is not always there, it's a single sheet, which is player quick reference. So you can pass it along your players, and they can read it and check how things work. And I think that's cool to have this reference sheet available to pass around. And then there are 2 more items, which is a dice set.
Yay.
Which
Dice are good.
I have tons, so why not? But I mean, it's included, so I didn't, my husband didn't gift me the set for the dice, but I'll take it. And then the last thing, initiative cards. And I will get back to that a little bit later. So the system is a D20 system, and I've been like, I don't want to play D&D anymore, and actually here I'm back with the D20 system, so but it's not D&D, so I can say no to D&D and alright the others. So the characters, they have 6 skills, but they are different. We have strength, speed, intellect, willpower, awareness, and presence, and they are grouped by 2 for the physical, cognitive, and spiritual characteristics, which is something very linked to the worlds in the Cosmere universe. These 3 worlds are always like parallel with each other, and some characters can switch from one to another, and powers are linked to their relations with this world, so it fits the way that it is done, and the groups of 2 characteristics together always have a deduced stat, and it makes sense. Then there are some skills, and they are quite diverse, like light weaponry, agility, crafting, intimidation, perception, survival. It's quite classic, but one thing that I really like is about the expertises. This is something that would replace in D&D Arcana, History, Religion, and maybe there is one other skill which I can't remember, basically the lore ones. And it's basically, if you have been raised in this culture, you have expertise in this culture. You may have up to 2 cultural expertises and then other ones. So this character, for instance, has 2 cultural expertises. So they speak the 2 languages and automatically know basic facts about the culture. And there is a stat which is lore, and you can make lore tests to get deeper information about the culture. While the other characters will have to make lore tests to know the basic facts about the cultures, but will not be allowed to do lore facts for the deeper facts and more, let's say, hidden things. So I really like that because it takes out the generic arcana, generic history, and makes it very specific and out of the rest. This character has other expertises which are military life, hammers, and long spears, which basically allow the character to know how to repair, how to tend the weapons, for instance. So I really like this. As I was saying, and the other thing is going to be the talents. The talents, basically, they are like in D&D when you get a warrior to level 5, you get a second attack when you do attack action. They're going to be this kind of same thing, but they are ordered in a tree, like in the Star Wars game, and it's a tree that you have to progress on, and each class has 3 trees. And you can freely progress into any tree. Sometimes some boxes will have prerequisites, and you have, of course, to go along the lines of the tree, but you can pick anything that is accessible. If you want to take 1 level in each class and pick 1 level in each subclass, go for it. It's extremely free as a system, and I think that I haven't experience with it since I don't have the full core book. I've only seen snippets of it, but I think that theory crafters can have lots of fun with that system and go like, yeah, for next, I've been a warrior all my life, but here I'm going to pick leader because that first skill of a leader is going to go along really well with that other skill of warrior that I have, and together I think we can do something very good. So I think that's fun. And when you play, you get, well, when you do the character creations, you will give your character a big goal at the end. I think that's purpose, the real name. And you will have some smaller goals. And the smaller goals can be something like beat someone in a duel, for instance. And when a player, a character does these small goals, they get a reward. That reward can be a contact, can be an expertise, can be an item, can be anything that you want. And so I think that this helps shift the game from the classic D&D combat-oriented and door monster treasure thing to something that will become, even if the rules are still oriented to combat, you will intertwine it with the narrative. And I think that's smart. Else, there was something. Yeah. Initiative. Each player will have an initiative card. It has two sides. One side is yellow and has 2 arrows. One side is blue and has 3 arrows. At each turn, the players decide. If they take the yellow side, they are playing a fast turn. If they take the blue side, it's slow. And they will get the number of arrows, action points. So maybe you will act fast but do less actions, or you will act slow and make more actions. Or some actions may cost the 3 arrows, some actions may cost 2. So there is this kind of adaptation aspect that I think is very interesting and can give deeper strategy into the fights. And let the characters as well be like, yeah, I know that when I act first, I can do something that is a nice setup for this other character. I think a bit more than with other games. Some classes are specialized into buffing the allies, so they will maybe want to act first to buff the other characters, who will act slow and then do several actions, taking advantage of the buffs. Things like that. So I think it's not innovative in the sense that the base is still the D20, but there is some, let's say, an innovative addition. And on top of that, there is the D6, which is called the plot dice. And you have on the quick guide how to translate and create it from a classic dice. And basically, the plot dice is when the DM says, there are stakes there in what you are trying to do. There are high stakes. So let's how do they call it? I think raise the strikes or something like that. And you add the d6 to the roll. And so if you do 3 or 4, nothing happens. If you do 1 or 2, you get a bad consequence. And if you do 5 or 6, you get an extra opportunity. And that's a tool for the DM to interact more with the players and to make things feel a bit more intense. I think these are nice twists, but I'm really waiting for the French version to dive into it more and run a campaign at my club. Small little additions. Every character is introduced with their pronouns. Every NPC.
Nice.
Yes, I really like that. There are as well a little guidelines on the general personality to help DM play the character, and quite a few things that bring a bit of that narrative elements. And I think there might be some things as well to play characters with limitations and things like that. So I think that, as you were saying, Fen, all this work on inclusivity, when we compare one character in Elantris, which is very old-fashioned autistic coded, and one character which is mute in one of the most recent books, Tress, we see all the shift in the point of view in, I think it was 15 years, and the inclusivity that was there, and the role-playing game continues building on that. I have nothing else to say. I really can't wait. But it's still a D20 system, so I'm still like, meh.
I'm consistently meh on D20 systems. The last time I played a D20 system was Mutants and Masterminds about a decade ago, and I still had everyone roll 3d6 instead of the D20, because I don't like it just being a flat 5% chance of every single possible result on the dice. It just kind of, it feels really random, you know?
Yeah,
And I like the 3d6 is really old school. It's not what I'd prefer for a system, but it does mean the minimum you can roll is 3, the max you can roll is 18, and then like kind of around the middle you get, what is it? I think it's like an 11 or a 12 or something. 3.5, 3.5,
Yeah.
3.5. Yeah, so I'm with you on that. I really, really like the sound of that initiative system. I was immediately like, ooh, that's super interesting. To have people make a conscious decision of if they want to act early in a round or later and get a benefit for delaying. Or then, as you said, like you could have a duo of one person setting up the other.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
Yeah, I also know that in the full books, it's slightly introduced in that, but there are all the rules for playing Night Radiance and how to build towards that with the bonding of a spren. For those that don't know, basically sprens are like both spirits and concepts as one. So if you are a person that follows this specific concept a lot, a spren of that concept might get attracted to you, and you may form a bond and then swear the oath of a Night Radiant and get some kind of powers. So these powers and these class talent trees are locked behind the befriending and the bonding of a spren. So really tools to add into the narrative. But it's to add into the narrative. I'm not sure everything is, let's say, planned for in the campaign, because there are too many variables. There are 12 types of special sprens that make people be a Night Radiant. So they cannot plan for it in the campaign. So I think this is for middle experience minimum game masters that can really build upon that. Cara is frowning.
Well, but I mean, I was quiet because I was very much like GM hat on, listening to like what's the good elements, developmental elements, bits and pieces of this which are like worth adapting in general terms, or innovations in the genre.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the initiative thing. I really appreciate when it's my topic. It will also be a big part of my topic, the initiative system, because I'm kind of growing tired of, okay, now we have our initiative order and you have 2 actions to do when it's your turn, and
yeah, it's very wargamey, which is where, of course, role-playing games originated from. It's nice to see it move further and further away. I mean, heck, we could probably sit and talk. I could talk about, like, I think 5 or 6 different initiative systems that I've run just in the past 5 years. And there's always pros and cons with them. But yeah, I'm definitely not a big fan of your turn, do your move, do your action, look. It is easier when GMing with like online people, because combat when you're doing it online slows down even more. I don't know about you guys, but for me, combat's like the worst part of role-playing games. It's so stodgy and it's slow.
It's become one of the worst parts for me when we do the night campaign. I try to do like one fight session maximum, because else it just bogs down everything.
Yeah, weirdly,
I feel like,
go on.
I mean, generally yes, but well, when every player knows what they're doing, so you don't have to talk about, okay, is this possible? How does this work? But everyone knows what they're doing, and everyone kind of stays focused. I know it's weird for me to say this right now after I just told you that I zoned out. Then combat can be really interesting. There are, of course, still issues depending on the system. I mean, I still think D&D is probably one of the worst examples there, at higher levels, when it's like, okay, your opponent has 200 HP and you hit it and you deal 50 damage, and then it's the next player's turn, and that player deals 7 damage, and then it's the next player's turn, and they at some point I'm lacking the creativity to narrate all these different attacks in some interesting way. So after like the second round, it's just okay, you attack so much damage, next one you attack so much damage.
Yeah, I hate as well combat because it's math, and I'm not. No way.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I like math.
Yes, but
Yeah,
I do like, but not in a playing moment.
I like the crunchiness. I really enjoy like putting together builds. Games that let you combine bits and pieces to do something cool is always fun. But yeah, like D&D falls apart when you get past level 10. I've only ever had a good experience at higher level when playing digital, because like completely digital, not role playing, just a CRPG like Neverwinter Nights, because it's covering all the stuff for you and you're not thinking about that, and at least you can watch the animations for the attacks. I totally got what you mean. I physically rolled my eyes and nodded a hell of a lot when you were talking about getting tired of describing the damage actions and just like, okay, you deal this much damage, because when the fights are not dynamic and fast and over really quickly, you do just run out of descriptions of somebody swinging their club for the 12th time against a dragon and bruising it lightly, and you're like, okay, yeah.
But you forgot that you already used your 5th level spell slot, so you have to pick something else. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's a subject sometime of just sitting down and talking about what we like in role-playing games, what we don't like, and then I can rank the initiative systems that I've experienced.
What we like, what we don't like, and what we are bad at.
Yeah. Yeah, well, before we move on and go to Cara's topic, which is listed as maybe the thing Cara was talking about in the previous episode's catch-up, so I don't know what it is. That's going to be a fun surprise. But I just wanted to mention, as much as I just complained about combat being slow, it's the mechanical slowness. I've just realised currently, in the campaign that I'm running for my group, it's the fastest portion, because we're playing Aliens, we're playing Colonial Marine campaign, like 8 missions back to back, and we're about to start the 4th session on the first mission. The previous session, they went from the outside of a crashed ship into a corridor, encountered 2 creatures that nested in there, killed them in 2 rounds after taking a little bit of damage and injuries, and then proceeded to move into exactly 2 more rooms over an entire session, including one room that had nothing of interest in it, and I had to tell them 3 times that all of the crates in there were spoiled and destroyed because this ship they thought had crashed for a week had been on the planet for over a month. So I just realised, like, as much as mechanically it might be stodgy, at least it gets my group focused enough to stop standing around in a corridor role-playing at each other and actually move the plot on. I did actually snap, and during one of the players' actions, I did just be like, could you guys just do something? You're in charge of the plot. I can't tell you where to go. I had to apologise to him afterwards. He was like, no, it's fine. I knew it wasn't me. It was like the person who's playing the leader of the fire team, the corporal, is like, his character is being role-played as incredibly indecisive. He's just like letting everyone else make the decisions. And I told him he was supposed to drive the plot, whoever it was, and it's not happening, and I oh well, who cares? They're about to find out that there's some very nasty things on board the crashed ship, as per usual, and hopefully that danger should kick them into high gear. We'll see. But yeah, that reminded talk of the initiative systems reminded me a bit of that, because the alien system uses cards, but it's nowhere near as cool and as interesting as these 2 different speed cards. So let's hand this over to Cara, and you can tell me what you're going to be talking about, because I'm in the dark.
I mean, I've been in the dark as well, because I wasn't sure what Alessio is talking about. But apparently I'm talking about the role-playing game I've been mentioning in several Standee Catch-ups now, and apparently I said like 2 episodes ago that I would talk about it in detail, and last episode I didn't really get Alessio's hint. And so Splittermond, a German role-playing game, which is basically the descendant of The Dark Eye, in German das schwarze Auge, and big German role-playing game, basically the German competitor to D&D. And several years ago, I think Splittermond started in 2014. A couple of authors of The Dark Eye left The Dark Eye because it developed in a direction they didn't like or whatever, and went on a journey to create The Dark Eye how they think it should be, and that became Splittermond.
That's the German name.
Splittermond, yes, Splitter Moon, because there is a moon that broke off, and
Splittermond. That's the name translated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think it would be maybe more likely Splinter Moon if you really wanted to translate it across? Because
true. Splinter. Yes, Splinter works better because a splinter can be inside of you. You know, like, and so let's talk about the setting. It's basically a classic fantasy setting. The world is called Lorakis, and it has 2 huge continents, which are about the size of Europe and Asia together, covering all different biomes and climate zones. So you can find anything there, whatever you want. You want to play in a desert, you can. You want to play in a medieval European setting, you can play there. You want to play in a jungle, yes, that exists. You want to play in a land where undead roam, yeah, it exists. And you want to play in a frozen tundra, yes, there is a frozen tundra. You want to play in East Asia? Yes, there is an East Asia. So everything exists. And
very convenient.
Yeah, and
it's like a sales pitch.
Tu me montres? Que t'as trouvé?
And the world has 3 moons.
Que t'as trouvé quand même?
With one of these moons,
Enfin, ma partie est finie.
Being broken. Like 1,000 years ago, the moon just broke apart, and splinters rained down on the world, and some people are born with a part of this moon inside of them, and the player characters are such people, which has a mechanical effect. Basically, the player characters can do whatever NPC characters can do. They aren't special in and of itself, but they carry moon splinters inside of them, and these moon splinters work like fate points, basically. So you have these moon points, and you can use moon points to give you a bonus on a check, or have each character has a special moon sign, and depending on the moon sign, they have a special ability they can activate with by spending a moon point. And so that's basically the balancing thing that makes player characters just a little bit better than everyone else. And in fact, in official adventures, that's factored into the balancing. So if you don't use the moon points, you will have a bad time. But if you use them, you'll probably have a good time, unless you roll really bad. The game isn't a D20 system. It utilizes 2d10s instead of 1d20, which is nice, even though d10s aren't platonic solids. They are still better than d20s. And so a regular check is you roll 2d10s, add them up, add your skill value, and try to beat the target number. If you roll a sum of 2 or 3, you have a basically critical failure. And if you roll a sum of 19 or 20, you have a critical success. The results are counted in degrees of success. So every 3 points you are above the target number, you get 1 degree of success. The more degrees of success you have, the better it is. If you have a critical success, you get 3 additional degrees of success. If you have a critical failure, you definitely fail, and you also get -3 degrees of success. Yes, you can have negative degrees of success, which is bad. And here's the first interesting thing. You can roll differently. This is the standard roll. Rolling 2d10, adding them, checking against the target number. You can also say you want to play it safe. You only roll 1d10. You don't add anything, another die to it. You just have a 1d10 plus your skill level. Try to reach a target number, which obviously will net you worse results. But if you do that, you can't have a critical failure. You also can't have a critical success. But yeah, so why would you do it? Well, if it's something you're really good at and you don't have any need to be really great at the test you're doing, but you just, you want to get it done. You don't want to have the hassle of, damn it, I had a critical failure. You could just do a safe roll and, that's nice. But maybe there's a test where your chances of succeeding are pretty slim, but you really, really want to make it. Then you can basically take a chance and roll 4d10 instead, and pick the best 2 for your result. Unless any 2 of those 4 together result in a critical failure. So chance of critical failure is way higher, but if you don't have one, you will have a higher end result. So that's kind of interesting because it gives you, with each test, you have 3 options. As long as it makes sense, like, hey, okay, you want to research in a library. How are you taking a risk here? So there are cases where it's hard to argue, oh yeah, I'm doing it risky style. Like if you take a swing at an enemy, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I forfeit my defense and I just go all out, so I do a risk roll. But other times it doesn't make much sense. Anyway.
I think it's nice. I like systems that give players agency into that kind of thing. I really liked the old Legend of the Five Rings system with augmentations where you can get maluses on your dice, but extra information, extra damage, etc. if you succeeded on your roll. I think this is something that gives the players more power and agency at the same time, and I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, once again, Audrey, is that the roll and keep system for L5R?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll talk about that something in the future. I still GM 7th Sea.
It's still a roll and keep system now, but with Fantasy Flight Game, it's like custom dice and symbols. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll put a button in that and come back to it in a future podcast because I'd love to talk about that system. Cara, back to you.
Okay, so now character creation, which obviously is tied into how the setting works. you have your classic races. Yes, they still call them races. You have your humans, you have your dwarves, you have your gnomes. You do have wargs. So I'm pretty sure they would be called wargs in English as well. Like basically dog people. They don't like to be compared to dogs.
Warg is a Tolkien word, so I think it's reasonable enough. Yeah, I mean, it definitely depicts aspects of a dog or a wolf.
Yeah, very World of Warcraft Worgen.
Yeah, and you don't have elves. Now, interesting thing.
Hooray!
Elves in German are called Elf. ELF. That's an elf. Tolkien made the big thing with the translation of Lord of the Rings to not translate the elves in Lord of the Rings to elf, but to elb. ELB. So change the F at the end with a B, and suddenly you have completely different race. And the creators of this role-playing game made the next step and exchanged the E for an A, and now they have Alb. So it's totally different. It's
well, different but the same.
Yeah, they're
They're now one letter away from becoming an ale.
Yes. So anyway, you pick a race. You pick your culture you're from, and then you pick your background. Basically, hey, what did your parents do, or what in what surrounding did you grow up? Like, hey, if you grew up in a bakery, you probably learned some, crafting or whatever. Whereas if you grew up on the road, you probably learned to orient yourself in the wilderness, and then you pick your education. Like, hey, what did you actually learn? Basically, what in other systems would be your class, and in the end, you have some strengths, and you can pick weaknesses. And also resources. Resources have a numerical value. For example, you have one resource that's your wealth, and which I find such a great idea. And your wealth resource basically just says, in everyday life, what can you afford? So you don't have to, when you visit a tavern, check, okay, how much is the ale? How many coins do I have? Oh, you have wealth too? Well, you can probably just buy the most expensive stuff at this tavern, and it's fine. We don't have to talk about how much it costs.
Yeah.
That's in Call of Cthulhu as well. That's a really old mechanic. I love it.
In World of Darkness as well.
Yeah, and they have other resources like prestige, or like your contacts. Maybe you have a high contact resource, which means when you're walking around in a city and you're trying to find something, chances are you know someone there who can help you. And or a mentor. There's mentor resource. So if you have high mentor resource, there's somewhere someone who has some influence and has your best interests at heart. And
that sounds very much World of Darkness like.
Okay. Then characters have different attributes. There are, I think it was 8. Basically, agility, intuition, constitution, strength, willpower, Verstand, which is basically intelligence, and mystic, which mostly has to do with magic, and Ausstrahlung, which is a fancy term for charisma. And then you have your different abilities. Each ability has a number of points you put in there, and also 2 attributes which are associated with it, and the whole ability number consists of these 3 parts. Yeah, so that's mostly it. There is another race which recently got introduced, and my character I'm playing in my current online group is part of that race, rat folk, so humanoid rats. And here we get into the somewhat problematic part. Nowadays, we are hopefully all aware that the depiction of orcs and goblins in media is somewhat problematic. And we do see this trend to give orcs more depth and a background, and have them be more prominent and give them agency, which I really loved in the Rings of Power show, by the way, that we also saw like orcs, like the whole plots from their perspective. And in this setting, there are orcs, and they are basically going the completely different route. They specifically say, hey, these orcs are evil. No ifs and buts, they are evil. If you see one and you are able to kill it, don't think about it. If you don't kill it, it will kill you, and then probably your family, and then it will turn your whole country into a horrible wasteland. That's the orcs. And actually, people can become orcs. Being orc is basically an illness that's in its early stages can be treated and healed, but at a certain point it's over, and then the person has to be killed. So that's fun. And they don't have goblins. Basically, goblins as the weaker alternative to orcs in a lot of classic fantasy role-playing games. The rat folk were these, and so in a lot of the adventures, you have the party fighting off some rat folk bandits or whatever, as some mobs between the big fights. And but around them there actually was some following and fans that said they are so interesting and we would like to learn more about them and whatnot. And so they actually now introduced them as a playable race and gave them more background, and as this disenfranchised race that was put to the fringes and basically pressured into a life of theft and plundering because they don't have the opportunities to make an honest living and whatnot. So that's nice, but they made it very clear that will never happen for the orcs. The orcs are evil.
Yeah, bundling evil and illness is a choice. A serious choice.
Yes. About this whole system, there are 2 things I particularly like. First of all is the whole magic system. The world is filled with magic. Basically, everyone is able to learn magic. It's not like in other fantasy systems like, hey, this is the mage, he can learn magic. Normal people can't. No, everyone. And most people have learned magic to some degree. So if you walk around in this world and you meet a farmer, chances are this farmer knows some spells that are specific to what he does. So maybe this farmer can summon a rain cloud to water his crops or whatever. Yeah. The farmer won't probably be able to throw fireballs around, but everyone or most people can do some spells, some utility spells or whatever. And when you cast a spell, it costs focus, which ties into the explanation for magic. Basically, magic energy is all around you. When you cast a spell, it's not about having the energy available, but being able to focus it, to concentrate on directing it to do certain things. So the more focus you have, the more spells you can cast between resting. And these costs are in 3 categories. There is the burn focus. So if you cast a spell and it burns 3 focus, that focus is gone until you've spent a night resting. There is exhausted focus. So if a spell has a cost of 5 exhausted focus, after casting is you would need a rest of like half an hour to get this focus back. And there is canalized focus, which is basically for buffs and such. So if you cast a spell, that focus is blocked. Basically, it's part of your focus you permanently need to keep active to keep this spell going. Meaning, as soon as you become unconscious or, sleep, it's lost and the spell ends. And you can willingly let a spell go. So if you cast a shield spell and it costs you 8 canalized focus to keep it up and running, and then during the day you notice, okay, I would really need some focus to cast a heal spell, for example, you can just let this one spell go, the canalized focus becomes exhausted, rest for half an hour, and then you have focus ready to cast a different spell. So it's again something I feel like that gives you a lot of options and decision space. There's also this interesting tradition that has developed with the breakfast spells, because most buffs work this way, that they work as long as you concentrate on them with canalized focus. So you start the day by casting all these spells. If you fumble a roll, you exhaust some focus. Doesn't matter, you did it before breakfast, so just have breakfast, half an hour later you can try again, you have your focus back. Yeah. And if during the day you notice, I should have saved some focus, just let a spell go, rest for half an hour, and then you have the focus ready. So that's kind of interesting, and it really normalizes magic when like the whole party starts the day with casting spells and not just the mage. So that's what I really love. There's also effects which don't really come into play with starting characters, because magic energy is all around you. So when you cast spells, you use energy around you to kind of focus it into a certain direction, meaning you change your surroundings. And there are actually rules like, hey, if this many focus points in this time frame get used, plants around you start to die because you pull the energy from them. And there are like escalating effects that can happen. Yeah, so that's the one thing I really like, the magic system. A world filled with magic, everyone can do magic. It's just a normal thing. It's not like, oh my god, it's a mage with arcane art, so okay, great. Huh? Like if you went to a blacksmith and tried to show him, I'm so cool with my arcane, okay, and I can smith. So I learned smithing, you learned casting flame magic. It's the same thing, basically. The other thing, initiative. You don't have an initiative order directly. What you have is ticks. So at the start of combat, you roll initiative, which tells you where on this tick list, tick ruler you start. And then you start by 0, you go forward until you reach a spot where someone is, and then this person acts. When you do anything, it takes a certain amount of time. Time in combat is measured in ticks. So, for example, preparing this one spell might take 2 ticks. Okay, so you say, hey, I'm preparing this spell. Okay, you move forward 2 spots.
Oh.
And then we check, okay, who's next in line? And maybe it's you again, because you were so far behind, then you can cast the spell immediately, costs 3 ticks, so you move forward 3 ticks. And oh, but now your opponent is there, and he moves there, which costs 5 ticks. And then it's your ranger. Oh yeah, I'm firing an arrow, that takes 7 ticks. And so you really have a difference between weapons, like attacking with a dagger might take 5 ticks, attacking with a halberd would take 13 ticks, so the one with the dagger is able to attack more than 2 times in the time the fighter with the big halberd is swinging it once. I love it.
That feels very JRPG with a gauge.
Yeah, it also reminds me a bit of Nova Aetus Renaissance, who have a clock rondel, where each thing you do spends a certain amount, and then you go to whoever's furthest back on the clock, and then they do their actions. It's actually, I think, a really neat way of running time-based actions in mechanics in a role-playing game.
Yeah, I bought a plastifying machine, laminating. That's the sheet that I print and I laminate it, and then I'm like, yeah, set for years.
They actually do sell with cardboard and battle grid in the middle, and around it you have the
of course.
There are problems with this system, namely 2. First of all, it's fiddly. But that's definitely a part where I noticed when people keep focused and know what they're doing, it can be pretty fluent. But when I DM'd this system, the first couple of fights, it was like, okay, yeah, this enemy will now do this, and that takes so much ticks. And the part where we measure the ticks is too far away from me, so players have to do it. Always like, okay, which one goes how far now, and would that be here, and what, and whose turn is it, and it just looking in. But towards the end, it actually got pretty fast, and when people just know how fast their different actions are and how many ticks they take, and when they do it, they just, without asking me or whatever, just move their marker forward. And so it's definitely a part where everyone kind of has to work together. And the other part is movement. Like, regular movement costs 5 ticks, and you have your movement distance, which you can move in these 5 ticks. But they differentiate between immediate actions and continuous actions. Like, an immediate action would be an attack. Yeah, you hit someone, and basically the idea is the ticks are the time you need to be able to hit again to, reposition yourself or whatever. But the attack was immediate. It's not something anyone can intercept or do anything about. They can defend against it, but they can't undo you attacking. Continuous actions are, like preparing a spell or moving. You can be disrupted while doing it. And it works great with everything except movement. Because imagine you can move 10 spaces in 5 ticks. So you say, okay, I move from here to here. I move these 10 spaces, move forward 5 ticks. Then after 2 ticks, it's an enemy's turn. Technically, you are in the process of moving. And they can disrupt your movement by tripping you, for example. But to actually play it out, you would have to divide your movement into single tick steps. So you know where you are at what point. So it's like every solution to this problem feels weird. Either we say, okay, you move, and after the 5 ticks, you plop up where you want it to be. Or we say, okay, you jump over there, and in 5 ticks, you can act again. Or we say, okay, you know what? Like in 2.5 ticks, you're here. And then there is some fiddliness to it, and I don't think there is a way to actually make it feel natural. But yeah, overall, still, I love the idea. I like that there's really a difference between small actions and big actions, and when you're attacked, you can make an active defense, which costs 3 ticks, which can actually lead to this amazing fighter in the front not being able to do anything because they are busy defending themselves, because every time an enemy attacks, they move forward 3 ticks to defend themselves. So yeah, I like it. And I wish more role-playing games would try different things with initiative. Anyway, so that's Splittermond, basically. Trying to remember if I wanted to say anything else. It has a lot of material. The core rulebook is actually free to download as PDF on their website, and contains everything you need to play.
That's always cool. Sorry to interrupt on that, but I love when you get just the core book, because that way the players, they can go over there, they can like print screen and then print on paper their talents, their ability, organize it how they feel like, and that says this is a tool. But yeah, extras should be not necessarily in PDF and or paying, but core books, I love that.
Yeah, there's also a special wiki for this system, and they do have this general rule. Anything that's covered in the core rulebook can be just as precisely written in this wiki. Everything that's not covered in the core book, but only in, other books you need to pay for, can be, like explained vaguely. Like, this spell that's in some additional book that, increases the strength of the person it's being cast on, but it doesn't say how much it costs or how much the strength is increased, which I also find really great, because all the different books with different settings and like different areas of the world that are explained and different cultures, and they often come with additional talents or spells or whatever, and you don't have like one book where you can check all spells, but you have this wiki where everything is listed, and with some short description of what it does. So when you're looking for, hey, my character can learn a new water spell, you can just look there and see, okay, what are the options, read the descriptions, is there something that interests me, and then you can see in which release it's actually covered, if you want to get the rules for it. They also sell everything as PDF and as print. Yeah, and by now they've released dozens of books so far. Basically, they're working through the whole continents, covering all countries and regions. I like it. I enjoy playing it. And all right, character progression. You don't have levels. You get experience points. You can spend experience points to buy skill points or increase your attributes or whatever. So you have a very gradual improvement of your characters. They do have 4 thresholds, basically. Like as soon as you spend 100 experience points, you reach the second threshold, and those limit how far you can progress. So you, in each skill, you only can put 6 points until you reach the next threshold. Then you can go up to 9 points until you reach the third threshold. Then you can put 12 points in. So that also leads to characters being more rounded, and because you can't just put everything in one thing, it's not possible. You're not allowed to do. You have to learn other things as well, except your fire magic. And so that's also kind of neat, I think, forcing you to diversify your abilities a little bit.
Yeah, I like system like that. You have the World of Darkness as well. I've only played Vampire, but yeah, it's the same idea where you can spend that, get more like the resources as well, the contacts, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I do agree that it's very like it gives you a smooth progression. And like if you are, let's say, a warrior or something that is very fighting, you get the opportunity to say, yeah, I want to put 1 point in art. Why not? Because we were at a fair last time, and I saw this kind of art, and I bought the starting set, and I am having fun, so I want my point. And I think that this gives a bit more way to, give your character more personality.
So yeah, that's about Splittermond, exclusively German role-playing game that
I was
probably
going to ask,
none of our listeners will ever play. Not sure how big we are in Germany. Hello.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it sounds interesting enough that maybe someone at some point will, maybe at least a fan translation or something that might start getting things rolling. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe this episode will kickstart it. Who knows? People will be like, oh yeah, I want it because I learned it from the last Standee and I want this game to exist in English.
Yeah, yeah, that would be lovely if that happened. I would. Right. Well, we're on to the third topic. That's my topic. I'm going to be talking about Dante Inferno from Creative Games Studio. They brought previously Chronicles of Drinagor, and they have another game on crowdfunding right now, which is let's see if I can find the name. Battleforge: Berserker.
I've definitely been out of a loop for games Kickstarter, and I'm happy about that, to be honest.
Yeah. I get the impression Dante Inferno may reach retail because while the Kickstarter release is very extravagant, there is already like a stripped down version with standees and and things like that.
But
so
maybe not in France shops.
maybe not. I mean, who knows? They are,
Yeah.
I think, a Brazilian company.
Oh, that's cool.
I think. I can't remember for certain, but I think that's the case. So there's certainly some talk of it coming in other languages. It's one of those problems of like Kickstarter updates come and like unless it's about the shipping specifically for me, I just don't bother because I'm just like, okay, I don't need any more of your updates beyond when is it getting here. Thank you very much. And then I sort of stopped paying attention to the additional, as they call them, Lang editions, which always amuses me because Eric Lang is a designer, and I'm like, well, it's not Lang who's doing this translation for you, which is really pedant of me. But yeah, so before I get into the game, are either of you particularly familiar in any way with Dante Alighieri and the Divine Comedy?
Yes.
Okay, how familiar?
I mean, I got the 5e role-playing supplement and Inferno, Dante's Guide to Hell. And it came with a copy of Dante's Inferno, and I read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for me, I've only seen I think it's Aradia miniatures who have a range, and that's it.
Okay, so in order for me to get to the review, I need to talk about the Divine Comedy a bit and its author. I'm going to try and not get into the weeds too much. I spent just a day alone like researching into Dante Alighieri himself. And then I went through the Divine Comedy, and then I went through like crib notes and analysis of it and people's summaries of the whole thing. I have opinions, and I'm glad Alessio isn't here. But we'll get into it. So Dante Alighieri.
Why?
Oh, we'll get into it.
Okay.
But Dante Alighieri was a like Italian poet, writer, philosopher. He was like the end of the 13th century, bit of the 14th century. So he's born 1265 and died 1321. And his most influential thing is the Divine Comedy, or he called it comedy first, and it got translated and reframed as the Divine Comedy in English. William Blake did one of the translations. And okay, so let me put here in front first the stuff that I think is indisputable. The Divine Comedy is an immensely important piece of work for Italy. It reframed things away from Latin being the main language, and instead, like it's like considered the greatest literary work in Italian. It also reframed and gave us a lot of sort of things about how hell is perceived now. The 9 circles of hell. It's massively influential. Loads of stuff is built upon it. It gave us the incredible phrase of "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here." That's like, right there in limbo in the first chapter. There is no disputing how important it is. Like, it's influenced so many people. Even Terry Pratchett, he wrote a book called Faust crossed out Eric, which is Pratchett's own deconstruction of this. That's actually how I first encountered the understandings of it. That may have influenced me a bit to be more critical and a little bit cynical. But here's the key thing. The Divine Comedy, Dante, Inferno, is made up of Inferno, Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. That's the 3 like acts of it, so to speak. And it's a story of Dante's fictionalized version of himself going through all of this. And that makes it almost impossible to untangle the author from the work, because he's put himself directly in there. And I gotta be honest, it reads like a fan fiction at times. Like, he arrives in limbo, he's confused, he doesn't know what's going on, he gets like these 3 animals, a lion, a jaguar, and a she-wolf, come along and stop him from progressing any further, and he immediately goes, "Oh, I give up. and like starts to turn off to find somewhere to spend the rest of eternity curled up in a ball or something. I mean, it is meant to be a comedy, so there is a certain amount of self-awareness around the character. But then what happens? Virgil turns up. Virgil, that's a Roman poet, Virgil. Massively influential, important character, but more importantly, Dante's all-time #1 hero. And so Virgil turns up and goes, "Hey, Dante, don't worry about this. The she-wolf won't let you pass, but I know how to get you through. I'm here to navigate you through hell." So you might wonder, why is Virgil in hell if Dante likes him that much? Well, you can't untangle Dante's Christian beliefs from anything else. So to quickly cover that, first of all, if you're not baptized, you go to hell. That's the first rule. So that includes everyone who was born before baptism was a possible thing. They're all in hell. Like, they're in limbo, because Dante's not completely heartless, but they are in hell.
That's a fun start.
It covers children who died before they could be baptized as well. They're all in hell. But Dante at least put them in Inferno, in limbo instead of like further down. He showed some kindness on that front. Again, different times, different standards. But on top of all of those people, if you're Muslim, you're in hell. The Prophet Muhammad, he put him in hell. And even when Jesus came to hell for the 3 days and took like Abraham and Moses and a bunch of other key prophets and went, "Okay, you may not be baptized, but you're coming away with me," Muhammad got to stay down in one of the lower circles of hell. Like, that's the kind of bias he has. And I'm, like, come on, dude. However you might feel about Islam, but it's still all part of the Abrahamic religions. Like, But my all-time favourite things is, as you go through this, is he's got 2 personal axes to grind, does Dante the author. Number 1, he hates Greeks. He hates them because they sacked Troy, and Troy is considered like the people who fled Troy were the founders of Rome, and Dante, Rome #1, biggest fanboy ever. So all Greeks, no matter what happens, they're in hell. Secondly, he puts people from his personal life he knew in hell. Like, he had a bit of a troubled personal life. He got pushed out of Florence. He never went back there. He's not buried in Florence. So he put people he didn't like in the various circles of hell, like suffering torment for all eternity, including people who were alive at the time he wrote it, which I kind of gotta like respect the sheer level of pettiness you've got to get to take someone, a political enemy, and go, "Guess what? In my work, you're in hell, buddy.
I
You're in the
understand
5th circle of hell."
it reads like a fan fiction thing.
Yes, it really does. So like, he's put Achilles in hell. He puts Paris in hell. He puts Tristan in hell. If you don't know who Tristan is part of a Celtic story. Who he's escorting a woman. They get drugged with a love potion without them realizing at all. So they basically both then start this whole like relationship, and it's incredibly problematic, and it causes no end of trouble. They're in the circle of hell, the second circle of hell, for the sin of lust. How do you put people who were drugged and involuntarily put into this situation in hell? They're the victims, man. They're the victims. So, anyway, he goes on this journey through down the circles of hell, further and further down. He has little chats, he meets people. I really love one thing in particular, is every once in a while he gets too much for him and he faints, and then he comes around later and they've travelled on a bit because Virgil's picked him up and carried him. It's like, dude, he gets guided around hell by his favourite hero and carried by him. What more could he want?
Homosexuality.
Oh, he's got things to say about that.
Of course he does.
I like that all the Greek philosophers have built a city in hell.
Yes, this. Yes. So in regards to homosexuality, when they get down to, I think it's the circle of violence, which is like the 6th circle, if I remember correctly. I don't have my diagram of hell in front of me right now. But he meets his old mentor who's down there, and he really loves his old mentor, but he's like, "Sorry, buddy, you were gay, you're in hell. You're really near to, like, Lucifer. You're quite far down. You're a great guy, I really liked you, but you stay down here and have horrible stuff done to you for how you were born." It's sort of...
I want to read this book now, but like with popcorn.
Yeah, well, there's some really fun summaries of people who've been very caustically taking it apart, but I was already on that page by the time I got to it. So that's the key thing is Dante. The entire Divine Comedy is an immensely important piece of work. It influences huge amounts of Western culture. It's incredibly important for Italy. It's one of their greatest works. It's also written by someone who I have zero respect for whatsoever. Oh, before I get into it, here's the final bit which I wanted to point out. So Dante, nobleman, person of status, he has an arranged marriage. He doesn't love his wife at all. Okay, arranged marriage, understandable. No, he loves a woman named Beatrice. He met Beatrice twice in his life. He met her before being married, and then he met her one other time around that, and then she passed away shortly after he got married. Okay, lose the love of your life, be forced into a arranged marriage. I get that, okay? That's pretty bad. Can you guess what he did? You probably can't.
She's in hell?
First of all, no. Number one, he wrote a book of poems dedicated to her. What kind of respect is that to show to your wife? She didn't choose to be married to you either. She's in the same situation as you. You could at least maybe not be that obviously this woman here on a pedestal. And here we go. The entire of Dante's Dante's Divine Comedy, he goes to hell to look for Beatrice, and she becomes his guide at the gates of Eden, off into a number of levels of Paradiso. Virgil can't guide him any further because Virgil's, he's not baptized. He can only go so far, and he has to go back to hell. Yeah, obviously, terrible person.
Yes.
Really cool, but no heaven for you, Virgil. So he makes her not only this important thing for his fictional version, he also makes Beatrice, and it's the Italian pronunciation of Beatrice. I can't remember it, but it's not exactly spelt Beatrice. So anyway, he makes her an angel and one of his guides, and I'm just like, dude, I don't know what the model equivalent of you is, but I'm pretty sure it involves living in a basement, because this is just this man.
Yeah, I was going to ask if he was recorded of having any mental struggles or anything, because that sounds like very narcissistic and or anyway troubled.
Yes.
Or different.
Let's face it, he got exiled from his home, Florence. He wrote at the time it came out, it was incredibly controversial, because he put Greek elements into hell, and people were like, what are you doing? Why is Cerberus in hell? Why is Charon in hell? As part of the whole structure. It's wild. But yeah, I'm going to get into the game, but I'm going to finish you with one final piece, which is when he gets to the centre of hell, past the ninth circle, where all of the sinners of treachery are frozen up to their neck in water. There's Lucifer, the devil, who is depicted as being completely mindless. He has 3 heads, and he's chewing on 3 people. So who do you think would be the 3 people in Christian faith would be most properly depicted as being forever tortured by the devil himself?
Cain, I would say. Judas?
No, but I like the area. Judas, yes. Judas is one of the 3. I'm not going to make you guess the others, because the other 2 are Brutus and I think it's hang on, it's Alexander. Is it? They're both Romans who betrayed Caesar. That's it. Yeah, how dare you betray Caesar? You are the worst of the worst. Let me get
Caesar baptized? I think not.
No, there was a bit before. Hang on, give me 1 second. I'm gonna find exactly who is. I know one of them is Brutus, and the other one is very, very similar. Here we are. Dante, Inferno. God, this. It's wild. He's got 9 circles of hell, but fraud, the violence, fraud, and treachery are divided into stuck nearly a dozen sub-levels in order to get everything in there. It's kind of incredible. I can see why people really loved love writing about this. Lucifer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Marcus Junius Brutus, Gaius Cassius Longinus. So those two were involved in the assassination of Julius Caesar. That's the one I couldn't remember. That's why I knew I needed to check. And then Judas Iscariot, who I kind of get Judas Iscariot being there, even though he was part of the divine plan and whatnot. Yeah, sure. Anyway, that's my... I can't talk about the game without talking about that, okay? So there we are, we're done. You've got like a short version. I've missed things out. There's a lot more to it, and I'm not disputing how important the Divine Comedy is, Alessio. I'm not going to talk to you about this in the future. If you have a different opinion, I respect it. It's an important piece for your country. Okay, I'm just saying he's no Terry Pratchett, all right? That's kind of...
I mean,
anyway.
the way you talked about it, that sounded almost like you were doing a summary of Dante's Inferno by Terry Pratchett or something. The way you were, being sarcastic and all that was fun.
Yeah, it's just the way I started looking at it, being like, I like this setting. I can see why people are really gripped by it, but oh boy, would it be better if Dante wasn't in it? And that's why I talked about it, because here we go. Dante Inferno, a 1 to 4 player boss battler, takes place over 9 chapters, so 9 fights, plus there's an extra 3 if you have an expansion that is spaced in between. The expansion covers Charon, the Gorgon, and the Minotaur, and you play as 4 different characters, classes that wake up in limbo. They don't really know why they're there. They don't remember who they were. They just know they've got a job to do. There's a legion marching into hell, headed by the supreme leader, whose identity is shrouded in mystery, and I will not reveal who it actually is, because I'm going to try and protect the plot as much as I can. Basically Dante is the guide for them. I actually recently asked the question, the designer, why is Dante the guide and why didn't you use Virgil? And the reply was, we wanted Dante to expand on his story and his legacy and put him forward. I was like, okay, fair enough, except number one, you can swap one of the classes out and you can play as Dante if you want. Dante's got his own set of cards, his own miniature, the whole shebang. Fair enough. Okay, all right, fine. So then he's guiding 3 people through and actively taking a role in everything. Except in chapter 3, Dante gets kidnapped and isn't there. And in chapter 7 and 8, there's also things that do not work if you have Dante being played as a character. And I'm like, why would you not just have, if you wanted to have that, stuff happen to the guide like this, and you wanted Dante to be a playable character, why didn't either you, one, have Virgil be the guide, because Virgil should still be in limbo, because that makes sense. What is Dante doing here? Because he got to go meet God and have a divine revelation. Why is he down here slumming it in hell again? I mean, you can justify it however you like, but Virgil was right there. That could have worked. Dante could have set them on the path to start with, or maybe be there at the end to wrap it all up. But they wanted him every step of the way. Okay, if you're going to do that, don't have your guy get kidnapped and have him be a playable character. And have a fight. There is the fight at the end of the 3rd chapter. If the boss steps into the space that Dante is in, it says you lose the game. And so it's meant to be like you maneuver the NPC Dante around a little bit to try and keep the boss away from this defeat condition. I was like, well, how do you do this if Dante's one of the players? How is it? It turns out you have to have 2 Dantes in the fight. So you have a little NPC Dante, and then you have the actual player Dante, and you have to protect the NPC one. And I'm just... Guys, you dug your own hole here. You didn't have to plot this way. You didn't have to have Dante as an extra character. This is just a self-inflicted wound, and it's really hard to get over. It's incredibly jarring. So, beyond that, let me talk briefly about the narrative section. So, it is a paragraph book. You will make decisions, go to new sections. You'll sometimes do tests. We all know how that works. It also has a little like map. So on the back side of the confrontation board, there is a grid of 3x6 tarot card spaces, and you will put cards into those spaces to build up the map as you're exploring, and you'll move the little Dante model around to represent the whole caravan that is your group. There are 0 mechanics that are remotely relevant with this map. It just has little pictures on it that build up the area of hell that you're in. It's nice artwork, it's fun to see it all come together, but after 2 chapters I went, can I play this without bothering with these tarot cards? Yes. I just need the book. I really don't. I was like just moving this guy around the map for no reason at all. Like, can you imagine a group of people playing this? Somebody's always going to be like, why are we doing this bit? It's like... It's not like playing Seventh Continent where you're exploring, or even Kingdoms Forlorn where you would be moving around the map of your choice and looking at maybe even hidden clues on the tiles and things. No, It's literally just busy work. And this is a classic example of murder your darlings, yeah? Somebody needed to turn between the design process and say, we don't need this map. Either you put some mechanics on the cards and you give players autonomy of moving around, or you go with the book, because every single time you never move on the map, you move in the book and then update the map to match. So it's completely redundant. And I just, like, this is beautifully illustrated cards that just build up a pretty jigsaw picture.
Yes.
And that's it.
Some other games have the same issue, but with an app, but that's the first time I personally hear it about 2 physical items that match.
Yeah. So then the writing is, I would say, adequate. We're not talking about Aeon Trespass Odyssey or Kingdoms Forlorn or Oathsworn. It's nowhere near that level. It's not as good as Sleeping Gods. It's like serviceable, but there's clearly times where, because it's got branching paths, they haven't thought about what happens if you take a weird path. You can actually be in a situation where the game is describing that Dante is missing, but he didn't go missing for you. He's just suddenly vanished without any description of it. It's like you blink and he's gone. Things like that, and it's clear it needed more time spent with it. There's also this whole test section where what you do is every character has 3 traits: aggressiveness, prowess, and willpower, and you'll be told, make a roll for a test, and they'll give you a target number, and you roll the dice. The dice are D3s. They're D6s, but they have 3 pairs of identical sides: a fumble, a 1, and a 2. That's what you use for all of the game. They're fine. The weird thing is, essentially, every dice represents 1 success, because the total number of successes on all the sides is 6. There are 6 sides, so your average dice rolls 1, but of course it could roll 0, it could roll 2. So that's it's weird to look at it and be like, why isn't there maybe one side that's different to the rest with a 3, for example, just to make it worthwhile, and not just rolling this 3-sided dice for the sake of it. So you roll X number of dice equal to each of the characters' their own stats in the test. First thing I noticed is most of the early tests all revolve around prowess. In the actual fact, so far, most of the tests have required prowess. So if you don't have good prowess on your base characters, you're behind on a lot of the tests regardless. Then once you've rolled the dice, you line them up for each character, and then they can spend Vigour, which is their health part of their health point system, to roll extra dice to try and get past the test. I like that. It's extra mitigation, that's nice. It's a choice. And then you have one further choice, which is if your dice are terrible, you can choose to re-roll all of the dice that you've just rolled, but you have to give the monster the malefactor, as they call them, the boss, an extra arcane card, which is like an extra health point and an extra move. So again, stakes, interesting choices, but it just feels kind of bunk to roll these dice and be like, oh well, fumble, and a 1. Okay, I guess I'm re-rolling all of that. Because the dice are so flat. They're a D20, you know? All the results are equally weighted. I can't make any sort of predictions about this because it's like if I'm rolling 6 dice on average, I should get a 6. But it's not going to be like that. It's really wild and uncontrolled. If you fail these tests, generally they mean you don't get anything and you get a little punishment. If you pass the tests, you often get a bonus, like an extra piece of gear or a trait or something like that. It's fine, but basically if you're rolling badly, you just don't get anywhere. There's not much of a fail forward. And you even later on have some tests that say, if you fail this, that's the end of the campaign.
Wow.
They do have a little extra paragraph which says, you can now restart the chapter you're playing. And I'm like, well, what's the stakes of failing the campaign then? Because who's going to fail the campaign if they're on like chapter 5 at this point? They're going to say, okay, well, we'll restart and make slightly different decisions, or maybe just roll better in some cases. So that's all the narrative section. I don't think it's very good. As I say, there's elements of it not needed. There's some stuff that doesn't make sense. The progression very much is like, hey, it's interesting on the tests, but there's so little relevance to the dice themselves that often you're just like, well, I made the right choice. I needed a 15 and I've rolled 15 dice. That should get there, but it doesn't because these dice are very equal in their distribution. So I didn't have much of a fun time. And, you know, when we played Oathsworn, Cara, when you were visiting, we used the encounter mode, the cut down short versions of the stories, if you remember, just to kind of speed up that portion. The version that we have here in Dante Inferno skips all of the narrative and just says, pick X number of upgrades from this list and use those to play the next fight. And I'm like, okay, well, that's no. Give me a condensed version of what happened on that chapter. Make me roll a few tests or make a couple of decisions and then get relevant at the end. I liked it in Oathsworn, that's how I replay it. I play the condensed version of the story because I've already solved the puzzle of the actual full chapter. And that works really well. So they kind of cut it down way too much. I can't bring myself to skip the narrative stuff because the alternative is so basic that it's not even interesting. But I also don't enjoy going through the narrative sections at all. And I'm just frustrated with them. So I'm like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Welcome to Inferno. Okay. Now let's get on to the actual confrontations, the boss battles. As I said, there's 9 in the base game. There's 11 total. There's also a Colosseum mode where you play, you can replay one-off fights. I think that's great. That's always fun, and it's a nice way to teach or play for an evening with people. That's great. It all takes place on the back side of the mat, which is broken up into 3 rows and 6 columns, so 18 spaces. Each of these spaces has a area in the middle that the boss goes into, and then it has around it divided up 4 sectors where characters or even bits of furniture can go. So you've got main area space, and then you've got the different broken down, and then where the boss goes. It's really cool. I'm going to just quickly post an image for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about, and go to the Board Game Geek image page. That's where I've taken this from.
I will check later. My arms are busy.
That's fine. But if you can imagine, it's like almost like a flag divided into north, south, east, and west with a dot in the middle, each space.
I was attacked by an infernal cat.
Yeah. Animals will do what they do. So that's really interesting with the boss or bosses moving around on their different spots, and they play with it in that later on they have a big colossal sized boss that covers the whole space. So suddenly instead the adjacency is like just on the next areas, so you're fighting on like the other edges of it. It's really interesting. Also, terrain plays a massive amount in this, or at least in the earlier fights. You've got these buildings which are like raised platforms. There's rules for going up them via steps or falling off them. There's rules for pushing them around. They can be like 2 levels high. The image here is like Midas's fight, which is the first fight in the game. He starts off with his throne in the middle on the back, raised up 2 platforms with steps down to it. The pillars in the game, you can climb up them and stand on top of them, and if someone comes and attacks you and tries to grab you or deal damage, you can like spend 2 vigor to do a little backflip off the pillar, and they smash the pillar or grab the pillar instead. That's really cool. As you can see in the image, Midas has picked up a pillar, because Midas can carry pillars around, and he can even pick up and hold characters, in which case they're like off the board and being held by him. They can still do stuff, but they're at danger of being squeezed or thrown at people or smashed, things like that. It's really a tight, small space you're fighting in. It's really interactive, and there's a lot of fun things. Bosses acting in different ways. Like I say, Midas, very cool in that he will grab things, grab players. You've got Charon, who basically has this kind of like channel down the middle, and there's lots of flooding, so you're forced to go up to higher levels and down. Cerberus is really fun because he's huge and he wanders around smashing all the terrain. I fought the Gorgon a couple of days ago. One of her things she does is there's a few statues of victims around her lair, and she'll walk up, pick one of them up and hock it at somebody's face, which actually meant I took the effort of destroying the statues by rolling terrain over them to reduce the amount of time she could do that, because it was really painful. It's so much dynamicism in the environment, and it's so tight and everything you're doing matters. Although I found that the facings were kind of a bit they essentially all that matters is if you're in the back spot, and some characters have bonuses for hitting the back. Sometimes that's relevant, and then the boss will turn around to face you after you've jobbed them. It's interesting, but they could have done more. I would have liked if they'd done more involving the flanks, involving the front, all of that kind of stuff. Onto how the bosses behave. This is also really cool. There's up to 3 decks. These decks can be separate bosses, they can be parts of the same boss, or they can be even like events that are happening. And on the front side, publicly you can see is the move the boss is going to do. It tells you who they're targeting, which tends to work around who's the most ferocious enemy or least ferocious. So your champion characters, as they do stuff, they'll slide up and down this ranking of who's doing the most threat generation. And so there's a lot of manipulating that. Like one of the characters I was playing with, he has the ability to taunt. He goes up 3 ranks to the top of the ferociousness table, and he cannot be moved down. So he literally, that's like the classic MMO taunt, over here at me, which that's really fun to play with. But it's sweet because all of the boss, you know what the boss is going to do, like Oathsworn. Right at the start, this is what's going to happen. And you look at a move and you go, am I okay with this move happening? Do I want to deal with this move? And so you'll attack the part which is listed on the card. You'll need to deal a number of hits. But if you get too many fumbles, you'll trigger a counter move, which is printed on the back. The backs are different. So they do different moves, but also that they have different matches, so the front doesn't always have the same back on all of the different versions of the same card. Like it might be a headbutt on the front, but on the back it might be a punch, or you'll get thrown across the room, or you get kicked, something like that. So there's a bit of learning what kind of counter moves that they can play that's on the back, but you're not got perfect information all the time. But it is doing that, hey, this is what the boss is going to do, react, the old signal and react. It's great. Really fun, all of that. You'll also have sometimes alternative win conditions will pop up in the fight, or you'll set them up beforehand. That's also really cool. I'm not going to talk about them now, but they can totally change the texture of the fight, or even mean like you go, okay, I'm not fighting the big boss anymore, I'm just going to weather the storm, we're going to do something else. That's really interesting. And then we have the characters. So each character has a dashboard. They have their portrait, and they'll have some abilities on it, flavoured. For example, my condottiere, he's flavoured around finding items from these little arcs scattered around, or generating his own ability, and then he can use them to refresh his own cards, or he can use them for their natural effects. So that's kind of interesting and fun. Or I've got like my devotee is a flagellant, so she'll injure herself to improve her attacks and hit harder. you have a dashboard with 3 spaces. These spaces start filled with stun cards, and each turn you'll remove one of those. But if you get injured, you'll flip it up and it becomes a wound, and it stays there locking the space. So at the start of a fight, you've got 3 slots to play your cards. Your cards are your actions. You can also spend vigor to move around and do a few basic stuff, but you cannot attack without these card slots. If they get filled with wounds or with sins, which I'll talk about in a moment, then you lose access to them for the fight. And if somebody has all 3 slots filled, that's the end. Bad luck. You lose the fight. So you do have this point where somebody's got 2 wounds and they're clearly flagging, and you're trying to get the tension away from them and let them help as much as they can. But they might be just like, I'm not doing anything this turn. If I do anything, I'm going to get walloped. So I just need to go somewhere safe and spend a few turns to recuperate. It's fascinating. The cards themselves, you have a deck of 6 cards. You'll have 4 to start with. You basically pay the vigor cost, which is also your health, to play it into a slot. You'll do what it says. It might be an attack. It might give you bonus dice. It might offer you a benefit if you do extra things. Like, as I said, my flagellant, she can gain a sin card to heal or to deal extra damage with an attack. And also when she gets a sin card, she gets a token that she can spend to do more stuff. Some of the cards let you buff yourself ready for the next attack, or even buff others, or heal. It's a bit like Oathsworn, but the cooldown is not like, they don't move around the circle gradually coming back to your hand. They all go into a discard pile, and then you draw fresh new cards. If your deck's empty, you have to draw a sin card first and then reshuffle. Sin cards, they have a benefit if you play them, but once they go on your board, they're stuck there. Or you can keep them in hand and they clog up your hand, reducing your options. So you start the fight with very few options, but very healthy, and as it goes on, you'll clog up with wounds and sin, and you'll have less and less options, and you're just trying to get it done. And every time it's been incredibly satisfying. It's hard work. I've chosen to play all 4 characters in full. I think it'd be best with like 2 players playing 2 full characters each. Bit less mental load, but it's a good system. It's interesting, it's unique, it's doing a lot of things right, it's doing a lot of things different to anything I've seen before, and it's frustrating because I think the system is great. I've only had one boss that after I beat it I went, I hated that. Every other one I was like, that was really fun, that was challenging, that was cool. You can climb up on top of Cerebus. Like, that's sweet. Admittedly, Aeon Trespass Odyssey did that first. So yeah. This reminds me of, like, they were inspired a bit by Oathsworn, but they did their own thing. I don't think they had the experience and depth to be able to get the narrative section right. The combat is really, there's a shining gem in there with some rough edges if you polish it up. However, the rulebook is terrible. It is terrible to learn from. It is terrible to try and find anything in. Like, they've gone with the classic mistake of giving a whole bunch of keywords to boss attacks, and you don't get a little reference card that says, these are the abilities the boss has, you have to go to the glossary. I had Bewitched turn up out of nowhere yesterday, and so I was like, what does that even do? I need to figure it out, understand how it works, and read it up, and then decide to handle it before I even do anything further in this fight. So it really bogs things down. Weirdly, they give you reference cards for each of the main abilities that your different characters have, so they've thought of it, they just haven't covered it everywhere. They don't give you a chart in the book for what all of the tokens are. They provide one on the website afterwards. But yeah, it's kind of a hot mess with some real potential in it. And it's, despite the story, there's some good stuff there. And I think the Colosseum mode might turn out to be really, really fun. So yeah, that's Dante Inferno. I can't unreservedly recommend it, but I think if you want to try out this combat and you see the retail copy with Standees and it's not too expensive, it might be worth a spin. I'm not going to be backing their next boss battler. I can't budget for it, but what I've seen here doesn't make me want to back their Norse one. Maybe it will be better, but it's a bit bad to say like, oh, this is okay, I enjoyed this, I'm definitely going to finish it, I'm going to write a full review of it, and break it down, but I don't know if I want to play anything else from them again in the future if they get this many things wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's if somebody says, would you like to have a go of it, I would say try it out. Definitely, be like set up the King Midas fight, and give it a go. And there's some really fun stuff in there. A lot of team play as well, like very good sort of one character setting up another character, or somebody's being held and someone else is like, don't worry, I can get you out of there. But their version of getting you out of there might be putting themselves in the grasp instead, which is quite fun. Yeah. So, that's it. Unless you have any questions. It's been a long one.
Yeah, honestly, I had more to react about your description of the original story than I think that what you said about the terrain, I think is, to me, the most interesting part, because often the terrain is there, it does its thing, and that's it.
Yeah, there's that's one of those things that I really like, is if you look at Kingdom Death, it's a huge board and the terrain is just kind of barely even relevant. And a lot of the board is often not relevant as well. And the same with Aeon Trespass Odyssey, big board, not particularly relevant. But then you get to Townsfolk Tussle, it's a largish board, but every piece of terrain is deliberately placed to have a value in the fight, which is interesting. And likewise, Kingdoms Forlorn has gone with a smaller board with terrain that is almost always relevant to the fights. And this has continued that trend. I've never seen anything so locked up with terrain where you're constantly thinking about it. Am I jumping from pillar to pillar as the monster tries to hit me? Or, that's all super interesting. Unfortunately, it seems the terrain stuff sort of falls off later on. There's less of it in the later fights. It's less relevant. Or, like, Cerebus smashes it all up very quickly. Yeah. But it's definitely an area I like.
Yeah, Kingdom Death switched it a little bit with the Black Knight.
Yes.
And that was interesting to me, so I think that's an area where I could enjoy Dante's Inferno. But enough games.
Yes, enough games. Yeah, it's even I'm at the point of like, that's why I'm looking at their new one. I'm like, maybe I've got enough boss battlers to deal with for now. I've got enough to write about. I've still got to do Grim Coven and stuff. Yeah. It's I feel like, I think the reason I don't want to back Berserker, as they've called it, is because they're putting that together without taking time to see the reactions from people in respect to this. So I don't know if they're going to manage to file off all the edges, because there's so many great things. I didn't even really get into how each character has 4 different people you could play as in the class. So there's actually 17 characters, including Dante. And they do various different things, which is pretty cool. But I will say, as I learned this from like just doing a bit of research from other people, I picked mostly ranged characters. And that turns out to be the right choice. Ranged characters have a way easier time because they don't have to spend health to move. So yeah, it's an interesting first foray into a boss battler. But yeah, I think that's enough for now. Cara just disconnected.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Oh, there. No, that's great. Right, you're back just in time, Cara. They barely knew you disappeared. We're going to wrap it up here, unless you have any final questions or remarks.
Not really. I mean, I basically what Audrey said. I think the usage of terrain sounds really interesting. It sucks that they didn't seem to spend much time on the story aspect and polishing that.
I think it was a bit beyond their capabilities. But like I say, it's serviceable.
Yeah, and just too many games.
Too many games. Okay, well, that's about all we've got time for. This is the last Standee, and thank you for listening. You can catch us on podcast apps or YouTube or wherever else you want to listen to this. Wherever you're listening to this now, you can listen to it here. And you can listen to older ones where we talk about other boss battlers and things and other role-playing games. Well, that's it. So I've been Fen, and goodbye from Cara.
Bye.
And Audrey.
Au revoir.
And remember that the I in Standee, which happens right at the end, Standee is for initiative. Because initiative was my favourite thing we talked about today.
That hurts.
What's the point if you can't break the rules a little occasionally, like all the time?